Welcome back to Ride JBI. This is JB. In this video, we are doing a comparison of the new 2024 Kawasaki KX450 Showa 49mm forks. Comparing the internals, which we have down here, to the previous generation, the 2019 to 2023 Kawasaki KX450 Showa 49mm fork, which we have laid out just above it. I don't have the outer and upper tubes laid out. It's pretty obvious what's changed. There's no longer a black DLC coat on the lower tube. Instead, it is only chrome. So let's get into it, starting from the top. The fork compression clicker cap remains green in the same design as before. The pressure springs are identical spring rates and identical design as previous. After that, you can see that the free piston shaft has a relief in it right in the center. So that has been updated from the previous design. And the free piston itself is also different. It is the shorter design like the Honda CRF450R. It went to this style in 2021. The key difference though, instead of it being a plastic free piston, it is made out of metal. I'm wondering why they didn't just get rid of the bushings, because KYB on their free pistons, it's all plastic with the rubber O-ring to act as a seal, and then they just use the plastic itself to act as a bushing. The reason I say this is because on the older Showa forks, this style, these bushings were often scratching the inside bore of our cartridges. So I think that'd be a really cool thing to do, is to see if we can maybe make a new free piston. Well, first let's see if this one causes any issues. We've only done a handful of these forks so far, and we only have so much time with them. So we'll let some time play out, get some of these back in for service, and see if we have the same issue of these bushings right here, making any scratches or marks on the inside of our cylinder bore. The cartridge upper tank has a different relief area. Instead of it being relieved here, it is now up top. The free piston is now able to relieve on the inside diameter, so on the free piston shaft, and also on the outside diameter of the cartridge tank, which is really cool because that makes the free piston more efficient in purging out the extra oil that can accumulate inside of a cartridge. Now, if you're wondering, how would oil accumulate inside of a cartridge? Well, when your fork compresses this way and it bottoms out, the seal that seals the oil in your cartridge, well, it's a one-way seal. It's meant to keep oil in. But if you apply enough pressure this way against that seal, which the bottoming cone does, it can often push oil past the seal and into the cartridge. That's why all twin chamber forks are self-regulating in terms of their inner volume that they have. If they were not, they would eventually split apart and break. So we have the updated free piston and venting design on the 2024. Next, we'll work our way to the compression piston, which is the same piston as before. But you can see that the piston holder is now different. So the piece that holds the piston right here is different than previous. I have these up top for better viewing. So what previously was a subvalve is now the more basic standard compression post. This piece right here. Unsure why they did that. In my opinion, that's kind of a step backwards in terms of tunability for the fork. I'm not implying you always have to use a subvalve. There's some settings where you may not, but it's a good feature to have to tune with. All KYB forks, such as this one, come with a subvalve, but as you can see, as we work our way down the cartridge, we can see the cartridge tube no longer has the same anodized coating as before, but it is still relatively the same tube design. We have two grooves for the circlip, just like before. We have the same cartridge seal head assembly. Now the mid-valve piston is the same as well. And and I mean the actual piston itself. But the mid-valve piston post, this piece, is different for 2024. It looks like this guy. Now this one's a different color because we had to heat it up to remove it. But what they did was they built this piece into the post, whereas previously the spring cup mechanism right here is not built into the post, which is nice because at Ride JBI, we always change these out to the leaf spring style mid-valve. Now on the 2024 models, we are removing this post and putting on the previous generation post. So that way we can still convert it to our leaf spring style mid-valve. That's the type of mid-valve that was found in the 2022 Kawasaki KX450 SR. That came with KYB suspension and a lot of people raved about. But I'm not going to get into too many details about our JBI suspension, Kawasaki KX450 Showa Pro Fork. There's a lot of details on that on ridejbi.com that goes into the exact parts we use, how we set it up, how we got there in terms of development and testing. So complete details on that's at ridejbi.com. Now you can also see that the spring perch has been changed to a plastic to replace the previous metal one. Now you can see here that this spring perch has a Teflon bushing on the outside, where this one does not at all. They're using the plastic material itself to act as a bushing or a glide. So, kind of unsure what Kawasaki was going after with these. Because I can say a great update is the free piston. That is definitely the better design and better venting system than the previous fork. So it's cool to see that they have updated to the newer Showa fork style. Kind of bummed to see the plastic spring perch. Not that it really has any difference in damping, but just in the fact of just kind of quality, like just seems kind of cheap. I remember when Yamaha started doing that on their forks. And just seems like another way to bring cost of goods sold down. I imagine that was the same idea as well with this item and the same idea with this item also. So a lot of the moves kind of seemed lateral, like sideways. I wouldn't say it necessarily was backwards, but it definitely reduced the amount of tunability of these forks as they come off the factory floor. When it comes to comparing the settings between the two, and what I mean by that is the stock settings, I would favor the 2019 to 2023 stock settings any day over these 2024 settings. 2024 settings, I've had a chance to ride the bike once so far. I rode a friend of mine's, and they're definitely good. I'm not implying that they're bad, but man, the 19 to 23 just base settings were pretty damn good. And the forks may have been a little soft, and the 24s are pretty soft as well. But at least with the 23s, we had the sub-valve working, which it is, come on. Sorry, I got a new phone and it doesn't always focus well. But we got the sub-valve contributing some good low-speed compression damping. Man, the settings are just a little bit better, I feel like. Now, we do have a lot of potential, though, in this new fork. So we still have our JBI sub-valve that we sell, and it fits this. We will be updating these forks and building them to our JBI suspension. Come on, focus. There we go. To our JBI suspension Kawasaki KX450 Showa Pro Fork Revalve spec. We'll catch you guys up on that once you do this. But for right now, I just want to give you guys some insight to have a comparison on what the new fork internals look like compared to the previous years.